Hey, it's Jose Galison. This is No Way Jose. You can find me on the No Way Jose YouTube channel. You can also find me on all the major podcatchers and on Odyssey as well. Today, my guest is Magnus Panvidya. Now, you guys know I've been warning you guys a little bit. I'm changed the format a little bit. Normally, I've been putting these live streams up publicly and then taking them later and then putting it back up as a numbered episode. But this one's just going to the patrons. It's also on YouTube, or not YouTube, but on Twitter. So if you're watching Twitter, you'll catch it live. But mostly I just did that because I need to do it eventually, and also because this was like a little bit last minute, and I know there's probably not going to be a whole lot of people on a 10:30 at night live stream anyways. So what does it matter? With Odyssey, I don't even know how because it mirrors my content. So Odyssey will pretty much always be available like as soon as the stream's done. So if you want to watch it like immediately, go to Odyssey. You know, I like this because this incentivizes going to Odyssey. So, and I'm too much of a tech tard to figure out how to undo it, and there's only like 90 people that follow me on there anyway, so like whatever. And I want as many people to go to Odyssey as possible. If I don't get $2 a month out of you, or I whatever, go to Odyssey. I'd like that because eventually, I don't know how I haven't got dinged on here. I have multiple friends who have done similar things I have. I think I just have just the right amount of following to where I'm, not too small. They feel like they can just utterly nuke me. Not too big enough to where like I'm on the radar as much. But yeah, I haven't got dinged yet, but I have like Tower Power hours multiple times. So, it'd be good to get some of you guys heading over to Odyssey, and I really think we need to support Odyssey anyway as best we can, as much trifling as fucking YouTube will be doing. But anyways, like I said, there's changes to Patreon now where I'm going to be doing more of this like live stream, like just for the patrons, and also I'll probably keep doing it on Twitter and on Odyssey to kind of I'm not trying to completely paywall the fuck out of everything. So $2 is the lowest, $5 for a chat preference. I'll give you a code. $10 if you're on the $10 tier, I will, within reason, let you curate an episode. So you can get with you. You can either have you on, or you can have your guest you're choosing, subject. Within reason, this will be something that me and you would talk through and figure out. What this is kind of just my lazy man's way of getting money off of you helping me make episodes. So I'm cool with that. And then $20 will be a sponsor level. So this will be, I'll read your name off. So for my sponsors in that level, I have Stevie McRae of the Whiskey and Tea podcast, Jermaine Vincent, Adam, and then also I have at Big Bog Horn. That's his Twitter handle, and he has the No Time to Explain podcast. Today the topic is I still have on my outline the live reading. It's not the live reading of John Hurley. That would be weird. But no, we're gonna be talking about John Hurley with Magnus. So that whole situation, which I've caught bits and pieces. I read his article today, which is really good. I'll have that I don't have it up now, but I will put it in whenever I drop it as a numbered episode. And if not, I'm sure you can go to Magnus's Twitter, and it's probably easy to find. I just read it. It was good. It covered all the major topics, and we'll be going into that today. I think he said he had a little bit more information. With that, patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. As always, check out the dude, TopLobsta. Use Jose at checkout for 10% off at toplobsta.com. He is the fucking dude. He does like just about all my art. Actually does all my art. He's the man. He has art for so many people, and go support him. Go help him out. Let's go and bring in Magnus. What's up, dude?
What's up?
What it do? All right. We're not gonna go so sour and dour right off the top. I don't even know if dour is a word. I feel like I've heard that before.
Oh, dude, it's been Depression Olympics for me for the last couple of days because I released that article and people are like, I wish there was more breakdowns of police shootings like that. Here's all of these other depressing fucking stories that you should look into, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, this is why I had to stop following things like the Free Thought Project.
Yeah,
I feel like there's definitely a use for that, like bombardment of here's this, here's that, and it's good to even every now and then remind even people like me and you. But I feel like if you're already embroiled and you've already accepted, like I get it, they fucking suck. But like every now and then you need a reminder, and then also you need that initial like, holy shit, they suck. But once you know they suck, you're like, all right, now I'm getting sad. Like,
and then they cross the line even further and do something even more fucked up than usual. And it's like, which is the Hurley case to me. That's how I feel about it. I think this is one of like the most egregious bullshit the police have pulled this year, and it's crazy that more people aren't talking about it.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild because we'll get into it more, but it sounds like from my reading of it that they straight up admitted, yeah, we shot him in the back. We we didn't even try to get him to identify himself. We just shot him in the back. And we weren't clear of what was going on. We shot him in the back.
Yeah, like there's so many more details around it, but the most important one was the one they interviewed the cop that shot him, and that's in the 1,090-page report that I had to read through all of it. And Jesus Christ, Denver cops or whatever police department that is, they sound like the most illiterate idiots in the world. I digress.
I mean,
but
cops.
He literally goes into it that the original idea was that they ran up on Hurley and then had to make like a snap decision and then shot him. That's what they told the media since the shooting happened. The reality of the matter is the cop hid in a building, saw Ronald Troik, who was the actual mass shooter, saw him walk by, saw him leave, saw him walk by again, and then they see Johnny. And the thing about this is, I don't know Johnny's exact height, but Johnny, I think he's like 6 foot something. He's a tall dude and he's skinny. Troik is like 5'6" and short. Troik was wearing black shorts, combat boots, a black shirt, and a boonie hat. Johnny was wearing a bright red shirt, blue jeans, and skate shoes. And he's like
almost the difference between me and you.
Yeah, like it would be like if you committed a mass shooting and then like Nick Astley walked into the room and they shot him thinking you were the same person. Like it doesn't make any fucking sense. And the cop even admits like, yeah, I didn't call out to him. I didn't try to do anything. I didn't tell him to drop the weapon. I just shot him through the door. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, and, which he said his reasoning in the article you gave was, I guess, that he didn't want to he was worried he couldn't win that fight or he didn't want to alert him. And I'm like, I actually kind of get that, but at the same time, it's like, but you didn't have to pull the trigger. Like you could have wait a second, assess the situation before you kill the man. Like I get not letting him know, here I am, motherfucker. Cause if that is a dangerous person, but at the same time, I'm also not going to just go I think that's him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Especially just mixing them up so badly. And plus the fact that, I break down in the article and I do it to a degree that I feel like you can't argue otherwise. We know that they have the footage of Johnny. We know that they have the footage of Johnny before he was shot and killed, what he was doing when he was shot and killed, the position of his body, where the gun was and everything. They have all that video and they've either not released it or cropped it. And it's like, okay, what's going on here? This is suspicious to me because I guess to go into it, I kind of go in the article, there's 3 very distinct slices of information that all contradict each other.
Actually, let's go. We're gonna get way ahead of ourselves and end up doing it backwards. Let's jump back to that because I want to work through it, because we know who is Harley or Hurley, what happened, and then we'll kind of go into the minutia of the different stuff, with the was it a cover up, the body cam, stuff like that, Because I mean, there might be, and I kind of there are a couple things you brought up that I might have plausible possibilities for, but obviously you might be able to point out where I'm thinking wrong. Because I mean, I always try to give the benefit of the doubt as much as I hate the cops. It's kind of well, you don't know what happened because it's even while we are fuck these people, they're doing a dirty I don't really care for cops, and and it's there's no such thing as a good cop. There are good situations. There are good good shoots essentially, and it's if some woman's getting the shit kicked out of her and some dude's about to stab her and a cop shows up and shoots him, I go, hey, hell yeah, good job, man. But but it has nothing to do with the fucking shiny metal badge he has.
Yeah, it's my feeling on use of force situations in general, whether it be a cop or not a cop. I don't care. It's would I have shot this person in this situation, and would I have gotten away with it with no consequences if I did what this cop did? That's how I look at everything.
Yeah. But I want to back up. I want to go make it a little less, because I said a minute ago, a little less, lighten it up a little bit. I know you're a huge Dune fan.
Yeah.
So I know we talked about it a little bit, and this will be a little bit of canned conversation, but I've just been really excited to talk about Dune a little bit because I just watched the movie, but I read the book before because I had my boss came into work. And he had watched the movie. And he's like, yeah, that Dune movie was really dope. And this has been a dive I've been wanting to take for years. I've already gone on internet, YouTube fucking rabbit trails where I've looked into different stuff and I know it has a lot of interesting themes and stuff that are up my alley. But he's never really had an impetus to go about doing it. And my boss was like, hey, this is good. And I was like, I wonder if they have an audiobook. I looked up the audiobook and it was it was well narrated because when it comes to audiobooks, I don't know about you, I generally don't like fiction. Because fiction, audiobooks are, or if you even read audiobooks at all, fiction audiobooks, yeah, or listen to audiobooks. Fiction audiobooks fuck with me. I don't know why. Them trying to read different voices and stuff, it's always weird. But there was a good one, and so I went with that. It fucking, yeah, I knocked it out within like days, even though it was like a 24-hour audiobook. It was just good. Then I watched the movie after. So I don't know. There's so much going on in that, and there's so much interesting stuff. So I'm looking forward to. I want to do like, I think I want to do like a super like a 4-person, like I want maybe like, I mean, ideally maybe like you, and there's a couple other people I have in mind. If not, there's like multiple people already threw their names out. They're like, it's kind of weird, like how many libertarians are into Dune, but it makes sense with the themes that are working with in there. You know?
Yeah, it's like the best anti-imperialism book like ever written, because it's not like bitter or pretentious about it at all. It just kind of like lays it out of like, nobody's really evil. It's just fucking stupid, you know.
Yeah.
It's like,
except for the Harkonnens, they're pretty straight up like, fuck these dudes.
Yeah. they're yeah.
Like, but there's like no redeeming factor. But even then, they sort of feed it to you like, well, they have all these rational reasons. They may be missing a few bits of information here and there. Like with Harkonnen, like him mistreating the Fremen is only like, he has it worked out in his head completely logically why he's behaving this way. He just has overlooked the fact of how many of them there are and how powerful they actually are. And it's not really that like he's dominating this planet; it's that they're letting him dominate this planet. You know,
so, that's my point. Is like it really frames it, and I feel like the correct way of just like, this is all just pointless and bloody and dangerous. Like it doesn't have to be like this cut and dry like moral evil, whatever. It's just stupid, and it doesn't work out. And I love that like hopeful nihilism of everything. Of like, humanity's fucking useless and idiotic, but we figure it out eventually. It's like, I love it.
I love how realistic they are about the political themes going on, because I know they didn't really show it in the movie so much, but like for example, God, who was it? The Atreides, Leto, the dad. He knew that he was being set up from the beginning. They didn't let you know that in the movie really so well, but there's multiple conversations.
They kind of hint at it, but you can't go too deep into it.
Yeah, but he straight up says at one point to Paul, like, yeah, they're trying to fuck us over. And there's like, well, and there's a whole conversation he has where he's talking about the political philosophy of like, and it's actually smart. They're going to, it's almost like Art of War type stuff where he's like to his son's like, well, why are you even going if you know it's a trap? And he's like, well, because we know it's a trap, it can become our trap. And it's like genius Machiavellian shit. And you're like,
it's like one of the best lines from the book is what makes a gift, or I think like, when is a gift a gift? And it's like, yeah. When you talking about when Harkonnen was fucking losing his mind over them giving the planet over, and he's like, you think it's a gift? What's a gift? You sure? Like, I just love all of it. It's great.
Yeah, no, I like this is like it's hard to even just do like quickly just breeze over it because there's so many different things going on. We even talked about in the pre a little bit too. But I would like to get you, and I have a couple other people in mind. I think I want to do it. I won't say their names now. I was trying to get, I don't know if you know his name. He's a Ideas of Ice and Fire guy. I was really trying to hit him up on. I was trying to. I haven't gone back. I've been spamming him on Twitter.
Bro,
if anyone out there wants to try,
fucking videos.
Yeah, it's just fucking fire, dude. It's great. Like, and he breaks it down. Like, I don't know what his like ideology is. But like he breaks it down like a fucking theory nerd does, you know, and you're like, this is fucking dope.
Yeah.
He's like how some of our theory nerds in like the anarchist world, but applied to just straight up fantasy shit. So it's fucking dope.
Preston Jacobs, another good one for that, for Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I've never heard of him. But the Ideas of Ice and Fire is the only guy I know, because I've done a bunch of his fucking Game of Thrones, and he does a bunch of Dune, and he's done a kind of other weird random fiction books that I've like tried to look into that. But it's just kind of too weird. I don't know. Maybe they're probably all awesome, but it's like there's so many goddamn universes out there that and sometimes it's like I gotta focus on my real universe.
I've run out of actual history to learn about, so now I know like detailed back and forth history of fake fucking places that never existed. Yeah.
I don't know. It's a nice little respite from some of the crazy shit going on in our world and like real stupid fucking anarchist theory, which. I don't know. I like it's something about like reading it in fiction, and then like you kind of are like, oh yeah, that's that theory. This is this theory, but then I don't know. It's just fun. All right, let's fucking get into it and stop shooting the shit about Dune. I just really want a chance to nerd out and eventually,
and get maybe a smile on people's face before we talk about fucking goddamn tragedy.
Yeah, for real. Let's start off with. Who is Hurley? Because I know that's the big thing. And everyone's like, he's one of us. Is he like someone that you know of people who know him, so on and so forth? I know that was like, I never really did a too deep of a dive of this. whole story. It sounded pretty cut and clear from the beginning that it was like cops fucked up and they weren't even really kind of even trying to disagree with it really. I mean, they kind of gave some like semi bullshit, like, well, not really, but it's like you can tell like they're not even really trying too hard. Like, we fucked up.
They put a lot of energy into labeling him a hero and talking about how much of a hero he was as much as possible in public while refusing to release any footage of what happened. Very interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Johnny definitely would be considered part of this circle. The two things that, because I didn't know him personally, but he was part of We Are Change Colorado. So Luke Rakowski's whole We Are Change thing. Dedicated anti-GMO activist, dedicated police brutality activist. You can find tons of pictures of him out on stuff like that. Ford Fisher did a great documentary about him, of how he would go like out in boxer shorts with like protest signs every weekend on different subjects, and just, you know, kind of like me, of just like a perpetual terminal activist. And so he was definitely part of kind of like the Luke Rakowski libertarian sort of sphere and stuff. But also he interacted quite a lot with a lot of the Boogaloo pages that were on Facebook at that time. Cato, who ran Cato's Lost Boys, which was one of the largest boob pages, Johnny DM'd him back and forth a lot. So like he was definitely like one of our people, but he fell more, he wasn't like a theory type like a lot of people are, and he wasn't really an obsessively online type. He was definitely like a dedicated on the ground activist, just always running around raising hell. Great guy, like fed the homeless, did like potlucks and food drives and stuff like that. And then a musician, and he did like a lot of like punk shows and stuff like that. So just generally all around like a superhuman dude. Like you couldn't say anything wrong about him. Everyone in the community loved him. Like everybody knew who he was. So just great fucking guy, which makes it worse that all of this even happened up to all people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
And important to note, really didn't like cops. Really didn't like cops, Johnny Hurley. And that's important coloring for what happens in the future.
There's definitely a lot of parallels to be drawn. I was just thinking, I don't know how I even really think of it now. Like, especially with the whole Rittenhouse thing, where it's like people have this idea, like it's like kind of like two different sides of the same coin. And at the same time, too, like it's also a matter of like what gets more public. Maybe it's because there was a trial associated with the Rittenhouse thing. Maybe that's a little bit why. But it's kind of like you have this one guy who's like not the perfect hero, like the Rittenhouse, because like he kind of, in a sense, like we can obviously disagree that like maybe where he was, what he was doing, maybe it wasn't the greatest idea, or maybe not like some of the stuff he did. But at the same time, like looking at the facts on the ground, it's kind of like at the moment he was reacting in self-defense. And if we're going to have some sort of anarchist world, it's probably going to be people protecting their property or what they perceive as their property and protecting their community. So you may not like it. It may be messy. It may not be exactly what. Maybe it wasn't smart. But then you have someone who was smart, like did everything right, and then pop capped by a fucking pig.
yeah, exactly. And there's so many other cases going on right now of like the Garrett Foster thing happened, which is very similar to the Rittenhouse thing. Nobody gave a fuck about that. The Ahmaud Arbery trials going on right now. Nobody gives a fuck about that. So it's like there's so much.
Ahmaud Arbery, that was the guy who got shot down by those like fucking rednecks, right?
Yeah, the rednecks fucking hunted him down in a pickup truck and shot and killed him. And
that was a weird one. It's been a while since I've done. I don't remember all the details, but I just remember being like, "This is weird."
Yeah. So like, there's so many things going on, but everything's focused on the Rittenhouse shit. And it's also important to note that the Ghislaine Maxwell trial was pushed back to conveniently happen just a week and a couple days after the decision's going to come out of this trial. So it's like, that's organic. That's just, that's just something that just happened. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Of like, especially like it seemed like the narrative was managed around Hurley very much, because you think that the NRA and the gun lobby and everything would view this as a fucking home run, because this is the good guy with a gun stopped a mass shooter. And like, not even, like Johnny had a sidearm, a pistol. I don't know exactly what he was rocking, but just a handgun. And he took down a dude with a shotgun and an AR-15. So like, Johnny was very well trained with his weapon. His parents talked about how he practiced with it all the time, like big ANCAP brain, militia kind of idea behind it of being very proficient with your weapon. And he did exactly what you're supposed to do in this situation. And the police, I guess we'll get to it, but to kind of preempt it, the police put out the information in a way to make it to where people would be critical of Johnny instead of the police. And that's very dubious to me. And that's kind of what makes me the most mad about this case. It's less the details of what happened and more of the framing the police did around it until the trial. Well, not the trial, the investigation concluded. So
yeah, and what I was kind of getting at too with like the comparing to the Rittenhouse thing is like there's almost not this controversy around it, like because it's like they kind of handled it, and it really the situation is in a way that you're not going to have this like mix up, because like with the Rittenhouse thing, it's obviously he's a white dude, and you know of the right at this like left-ish protest, and then even then like among us anarchists, there's so many people get caught up in the fact that he's like a bootlicker, which I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of bootlickers. At the same time, I'm like, you know, it was whatever, self-defense. Like, I'm not gonna like in any way throw the fact that he liked the cops or be annoying about it. It's like, you know what, like if anything, I kind of want to support that behavior.
Right.
You know,
so many people got fucking so mad at me when I mentioned that the Rittenhouse case wasn't as clean and cut and dry as some of these other cases. And it's exactly everything you've mentioned of like, there's so many. I think also a lot of people mix up the trial, which he's being tried for murder and whether that's self or defense or not, and the whole situation. Like yeah. I have my opinions on both of those, you know, separately, but a lot of people put them together and people get really like fucking obsessive. But yeah, the Rittenhouse case and what happened in Kenosha and everything like that is not cut and dry, is not clean, whatever. You can say the self-defense is, a home run, cut and dry, whatever. But everything around that it's a mess. It's a mess and a fucking half. And when I bring that up to people get really fucking mad. And I'm like, I don't care. It's how I knew people that were at that gas station. I was talking to people that were at that gas station that night through fucking Facebook Messenger. Like, I know more about the situation than you fucking Twitter toids do. Shut up. Like, fucking A. But anyway, back to the Hurley thing. I just had to go on that fucking time.
Yeah, no, I had to make the parallel. Obviously, it's just, I mean, these are these, and it's kind of the same thing that was happening to the BLM stuff. Like, you know, I don't know, probably 5+ years ago. I mean, I sometimes forget how old I am, that I remember when it was like really pushing it during like the Obama. And I always thought it was so fucking weird. It's always some fucking situation that's really not that clear cut, but then also kind of is in just the right kind of way. Like, and it just perfectly tugs on the heartstrings of each side, one way or the other. Mm-hmm. And it's like,
and causes debates and infighting and conflict.
And it's this thing where you're like, well, here's my opinion on this, and then it's this other, like, I know they just perfectly find these like the Trayvon Martin thing, because then it becomes like, say like, well, I don't know exactly happened there. It could have totally been self-defense, like the Trayvon Martin thing. And then people be like, well, do you think you should have been out there being a vigilante? I'm like, well, that's not even what we're talking about. Like, what does that have to do with it? Like, was it good? Was it not? Like,
yeah, there's so much to it. And like, there's another, I'm writing another article now about the Fonta Bately case, which this is you think this would be fucking all over the news of the fact that I think it's Pennsylvania police opened fire into a crowd of people outside of a football game, killed a 7-year-old little black girl and shot a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old, and then lied and said that they got killed by a drive-by shooting, covered all of it up. And then it's just coming out now that the police just fucking mag dumped into a crowd of people. You think like that's BLM home run. That's anti-police brutality home run. The Washington Post should be all over that. Fucking, you know, Cenk Uygur should be fucking seizing in his chair, screaming at his microphone about it. Zero. It's my ass and a couple other fucking Twitter accounts that have 10K or less followers that are talking about this. And it's like, what the fuck? And you're right, because like there's no controversy there. There's no debate to be had there. It's just wrong. And thus we don't want to touch on that.
Yeah. Yeah, like this Hurley event, it's like pretty much like, I know they did kind of cast aspersions on Hurley, but it sounds like from what I'm seeing straight up from the beginning, which you alluded to earlier, he basically was like, kind of without saying it, was like I fucked up, but he didn't. He was like, it's kind of when you like were like, here's what I did wrong, but you never really said I did it wrong. But the subtext is I fucked up, and you're like, well, did you fuck up? And you're like, no, I did fuck up.
Right. It's very abusive, gaslighting boyfriend is how I describe the Johnny Hurley case. Because like to get into it, I guess to really quickly break down what exactly actually happened
Yes, let's go into what happened. That's the next bullet point I got, and then I want to get to like the cover-ups, like different shit like that. So, but let's say what the fuck happened so people know, because not everyone knows exactly what happened.
Yeah, so Arvada, Old Town Arvada is essentially like a suburb of Denver. It's like 30-minute drive northwest of Denver or something like that. And Ronald Troik, he seemed to be a like big anti-cop guy. A news article just released that he was radicalized by watching anti-cop videos on YouTube, which like, go fuck yourself for even writing that article. But he essentially wrote a note saying that he was going to go down to Old Town Arvada and kill cops. And there's also some evidence that he was going after like either an ex-girlfriend or an ex-wife or something that was in the juice shop that he ended up shooting into as well. We don't know for sure about that, but there's been a lot of talk around like locals in the area about that. But he goes down to Old Town Square and essentially walks up to a random person and says something weird to them. The person isn't specific, and shows them a condom. And the person's like, what the fuck? This is like a flasher situation or something like that. So they call the cops, and the cops are like, yo, there's a suspicious person at Old Town Square. We're going to show up there. So Officer, I think it's Gordon Beasley. I might mix up his first name, but we'll just say Officer Beasley for the rest of this. He shows up, he parks his police cruiser next to the Old Town Arvada Square and starts walking towards the farmer's market that's kind of in the middle of all of this. Troik sees him, parks his truck, jumps out of his truck with a shotgun, runs after Beasley, shoots and kills him in the middle of the farmer's market. He then turns down the alleyway north, because there's like a east and then it cuts north alleyway, like an L-shaped alleyway. He goes down the alleyway north and he starts just dumping his shotgun into parked police cruisers, into a juice shop, into a vegan cafe, just like lighting up this whole fucking thing. Probably like runs out of ammo in his shotgun or something like that, and then walks back to his truck. And this is the point where on the total opposite side of the farmer's market, Johnny Hurley's in a army surplus store. He hears shooting going on. Immediately, like no fucking hesitation, pulls his sidearm out and just hauls ass across this fucking farmer's market. Like total Chad. Badass.
This is all on video, right?
Yeah, almost everything about this is on video except for when Johnny dies, which is the interesting part. But Johnny runs over there. He takes position behind like this brick wall. He catches Troik walking back, shooting his AR-15 into the air, and shoots Troik with his sidearm. And that's kind of like right there what we know stops, because Arvada police released a official statement. And the only thing in this official statement was a really heavily cropped down security camera footage of the alleyway. And it doesn't show Beasley dying. It doesn't show Hurley or anything. It just shows Troy getting out of his truck, shooting, and then coming back to his truck. And that's all we knew in the moment. So that's like the hard details of what we knew then. And then you start to get into like the weird kind of cover-up-y thing. I don't know if cover-up's the right word, but it's a lot of poisoning.
Factual but not truthful.
It's a lot of poisoning the well, and like malicious omission is what I would call it.
So factual but not truthful kind of deal with like the malice thing, where it's like it's hard to find where they necessarily lied, but there's definitely spots where they either stretched the truth or gave you the truth, but they left out important details.
It's like I came to your house and I found that your cat was dead, and it's like, okay, that's true. I left out the part where I shot your cat. It's like, well, I didn't lie. It's like, oh, real okay, I guess correct, but yeah. So immediately after the shooting, the police reported that, like, obviously there's a clusterfuck for a couple days, but once the story had settled down a bit, the police had reported that they had pulled up to the situation, that officer had pulled up to the situation and saw Johnny Hurley standing over Troik's body, very specific and clear, standing over Troik's body with Troik's AR-15, and they immediately responded and shot and killed Johnny. And by reporting that made everyone who was outraged about this immediately go like, well, yeah, it's a tragedy, but why would you ever stand over the shooter with his gun? Why would you ever touch his gun? And like all these things, which are valid. Like, yeah, if you shoot and kill somebody, you probably shouldn't be fucking standing over them with a rifle when the cops show up. That makes sense, but that's not what happened. And We didn't know that because they hadn't released the uncropped footage. If they would have released the uncropped footage, you would have never seen Johnny standing over Trike at all. But they didn't do that. They also reported that none of the officers there was no body camera footage, that none of the officers there had body cameras.
Once I want to say though, you said you wouldn't. I feel like I would in that situation. I would immediately disarm him, grab his gun. I'd probably put it somewhere else. So if you catch me at the right time, I feel like you may very well see me standing over someone with a gun. Because I mean, my first thought would be, people don't. It's not the movies. Everyone thinks you're gonna shoot someone and they fucking die.
Right.
Like it's not like bam, you're dead. But like, it's like dying is a fucking process. Usually, it's just a matter of how good of a shot were you and how quick is this process going to be.
Especially with handgun calibers, people get shot like fucking 27 times and keep going. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so it's like my first thought is not going to be, oh, is he dead or whatever. It's going to be like, well, it is going to be that, but it's also going to be like, I need to get the gun away from this guy.
Well, that's like, it might be fast forwarding a bit, but that's exactly what Johnny ended up doing. Yeah. Johnny took him down, held him at gunpoint for a second, then ran over and literally like while running, snatches the AR-15 up and then fucking bails and goes and stands somewhere else. And so it's like, yeah, you're right. Like that's what I would do. But the cops described it like literally like Johnny had just fucking killed him and was going in for the finishing off shot. Like that's how they described him standing over Trike. That's not true. And then, like I said, like they said there was no body camera footage, which turned out to be a lie later. And that they said that there was no other footage. The only other detail we got up until this week was a news helicopter, like maybe 10, 15 minutes after the shooting happened, that was circling the area. And the footage in that news helicopter, you can see Troik's body, but you don't see Johnny anywhere. And you see a bunch of cops standing around. So we're like, well, what the fuck? Like what is going on here? So that raised even more questions. And later on, it turned out that they had put, if you go look up this news footage, it's in a video called Who Killed the Hero Johnny Hurley on YouTube. You can see that they put cones up to where Johnny was standing. And that's kind of important for later. So that's the two slices of like what happened and then what we were immediately told.
Yeah. Just saw Bonghorn, Leghorn, and Libertarian podcast review, which is Tyler Yankee show up. Yeah. Bonghorn brought out plenty of stories, people beating others to death after getting shot. Yeah, like it's a process. Like you could give me a fatal shot and I may still have enough time to finish the fucking job before you do. But
yeah, I mean, like, Ahmaud Arbery was still like beating the shit out of the guy that tried to kill him after catching a couple shotgun blasts. So like, he died immediately afterwards, but like you have gas in the tank even after getting fucked up, unless it hits something serious.
Yeah, exactly. And then Libertarian podcast review, he mentioned that there's a documentary. If you guys have any questions, I know Magnus has poured over a ton of information in the past few days. So
and created my own information, bro. I used some fucking Google Maps foo to build this story. Man.
You said you made your own information. I just thought of the meme with Dr. Manhattan and it's source, which isn't flowing above. I made it up.
But yeah, I went to Google Street View. I was zooming in on stuff. I was taking pictures from multiple angles. I talked to people that were there, that talked to other people. I became a journalist, unfortunately. Now y'all have to fucking hate me and bully me. It's the law.
I know, but journalist, it's so gay and not in the cool gay way. Yeah, it's the worst. You become that which you hate, but it's I guess someone's got to.
I know. I feel the same way Shoe on Head for making the anti-pedophilia videos.
Oh my god!
God damn it! I'm a journalist now. Fuck.
Yeah, no, that one. But that the funny thing is that was a story before that I'd seen in other places and I was aware of it. But it seemed to be Shoe that really kicked the hornet's nest, and it's I guess she was just big enough and just what's the word I'm looking for? Just
controversial and
well, not even controversial. She just had just enough didn't care, fuck you idea. It wasn't she was trying to step around it. And I guess it also probably helps that she's from the left, so it's they're almost using lefty language to make it acceptable. It's no.
Like I said, not to derail too far, but I had conversations 2-3 years ago telling people about the map shit, and I'm in the LGBT community. I'm fucking bi. I hang out. I would often go to Boys Town in Chicago. So trust me, these are my people. And I would tell them about the map stuff, and they'd be like, oh, this is a right-wing conspiracy. And now we fast forward 3 years later, and all of those people are like, you were right. This is fucked up.
I feel bi is just bi is just extra dude. You're just you've transcended past being oh, I'm limited to women. You're dude, I just like holes.
I'll never speak. We brought up fucking TopLobsta. I'll never forget his fucking comment where I'm like aggressively homosexually heterosexual, and he's like, I just love and respect dudes so much I can't fuck them. Killed me.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the body
back
cams.
to the depression.
That's one thing I saw, the body cams. Like the first thought, because like the body cams is always like, everyone now seems to have this assumption that every police force has them, and I would be completely fine with everyone having them. And then even then, there's like different rules because some places have them, but they're not required for certain events or others, or they don't always have them on. Just always such bureaucratic red tape around it.
Yeah.
And you brought up how they said, I guess in multiple places they weren't required to have them, but then it pointed out that there was body cam footage later. And my first thought was, and maybe you correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, this is my only explanation for that would be like, well, maybe there's different departments that show up.
That's what it is. I think it's like, because
okay.
it's not an issue that they said that Arvada PD doesn't have body cams, because that's true. They explicitly stated that there was no body camera footage of the event whatsoever. When the I don't know what the county is called. I think it's like a Brownin County or something, whatever Arvada is.
Okay, so this could be a straight up an honest mistake of that they don't talk to each other well.
Yeah, like the sheriff. Yeah, but it gets weird though. This is an important detail. The sheriff's department for the county has body cams, and they released two separate like pieces of body cam footage. And the first one is of a sheriff's deputy walking up when they're loading Johnny into the back of a police SUV, which is really fucking weird. I didn't even touch on this in the article, but like, why isn't there an ambulance? Why are they putting him on a stretcher and putting him in the back of a fucking grocery getter? Like, this is weird. I don't understand. I have no answer for that. That's just something I noticed. And I'm like, what the fuck? But
I mean, I'm sure if I had to conjecture, there was probably a whole lot of like, and you know, with the missing footage off thing, it was probably like, oh fuck, Bobby, I killed someone. What do we do here?
Get him out of here. Get him out of here immediately. Because that's the other thing too, is Johnny died at the scene and Troy died at the scene. But they took Johnny's body away, but left Troy sitting like a fucking bag of garbage on the sidewalk for hours. So it's like, if you didn't know who was the shooter in the moment, then why? It's weird. It's weird.
Mean, if I had to guess, I would totally think. Obviously, I'm just talking to my ass. I think. I mean, and this is me being. I mean, maybe there was some sinister element, but it really just sounds like he's a fucking idiot. He's an idiot and a pussy. And like, but don't get me wrong, I can totally get being in the heat of a moment and being freaked out, and you make a bad choice. And I'm not even saying like I'm not even saying the cops should like go away from murder. I think it sounds to me like it was probably some sort of manslaughter or something. You know what I mean? Like, because
that's the important thing to know is like, if everything is true and there's nothing covering up, I don't think the story they sell is unreasonable. I think it's bullshit, and I think that cop is a fucking bastard for doing it, but I don't think it approaches like fucking go to prison level. I think it's just, you should probably not be a police officer anymore.
But I mean, I would think it'd be go to prison, because that was like maybe not a long time, because that's totally manslaughter. Like, assuming I don't know. I agree.
I mean, like,
but at the very least, he should not be working anymore.
Right? Yeah, very least, you should not be a fucking cop anymore. But my biggest criticisms are of the Arvada PD, because they're so shifty about all of this, and everything they've done is so shifty that it makes me suspicious. Because I forget the name of the kid, but it was in Chicago, and he was like running down an alleyway or something, and then he turned around and like pointed a gun at the cop, and then they shot and killed him. And there was almost like big BLM protests about it, and the cops within fucking 12 hours were like, boom, body cam, because they were confident. They were confident in themselves.
Famous 90s black movie with the guy running, the chin gunned down. That's all I thought of. I don't know. Maybe someone will think of it and laugh, because there's a famous scene from some like 90s black like street hood movie or whatever the fuck.
Right.
Some kid running away.
Black exploitation film or something.
And he's getting gunned down, and it's like, and his friends there, and he's like, oh my God.
Right.
That's all I thought of when he said
but it's like you can look up 100 examples of whenever the police think they're in the right, all of the information will come out immediately. But whenever there's anything shifty going on, they'll sit on it for like ever. Another case of that was the Duncan Lemp, great example.
Ridiculous. If you follow that story, insane.
Right. It's the same thing. This is why
how many lies and how many changes of narratives there are. Like, you're not even like close to the same story anymore. What's going on?
It's the same thing with Anthony Hulin, which was a guy that died in Lansing jail. First, they're like he died of a drug overdose, and then he's like he died from a panic attack from being like detained by police officers. And then finally 6 months later, they release a video of he's in the corner of his cell screaming while 6 cops are standing on him, literally like boots on his back, full body weight standing on him for like 10 minutes until he died. And it's like, oh, that's why you didn't release the footage, because you look like a piece of shit. And it's the same thing with the Hurley thing, because if you go in the body cams, like I said, the first one is a regular body cam, and it's a guy walking up way after the fact. But the second body cam footage is of a sheriff's deputy who removes the rifle from Johnny's corpse and puts it aside. So he's like the 4th guy to show up, essentially. This one is cropped like this, like literally like vertical cell phone camera crop. And it's the same sheriff's department. They're the same body cams, but the one that doesn't show anything is full screen. But the one that might give us any hints about what was going on, where Johnny was, how he was standing, sitting, where the rifle was, what, like, you know, is he like laid back like this? Where did he get shot from? All these details.
Hey, 1 second. You're a bit more of a tech nerd, if I'm correct. Maybe not like a super deep tech nerd, but you probably are a little bit more techie than I am. Can you think of any reason? I mean, why that would be the case? Like, because I don't understand body cams. I have a rough idea that maybe some sort of GoPro thing. Maybe there's different settings for like the aspect ratio or how or whatever. But like,
so what
to me, that doesn't compute. But I'm not a tech guy, so I don't know if there'd be a reason. Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, because like,
can you think of a plausible reason why be the case? Like,
not at all. Because I had to do some digging into body cams too. The universal standard across the United States for body cams, literally every single department, whether they're using different companies, different versions, whatever, the universal standard is all of them are fisheye lenses, and they film either a 90 to 170 degree field of view. So that's all of them.
And they're not adjustable.
Yeah. If they are adjustable, they do not have a setting to film in this way. There is no way to crop it down to this much unless it is edited after the fact. Because
that's
one, it would be fucking useless, because like literally like people watching YouTube right now, like the slice you see me in is all the body cam shows.
Yeah. So because in my head, I'm thinking like, well, maybe there's something where like this is what we're supposed to use, but you can accidentally hit the button and it changes it, and like, well, that's not what we're supposed to. Because I worked for the military for 11 years for the government, so I know how shit works. Like, this is what we're supposed to use, and like the way that bureaucratic shit works and how it actually happens are very different things. Right. So like, you know, I'm sure there's probably some rule somewhere like this is what you're supposed to use, but does that get obeyed? Is there different settings or the ways around it on accident? You know, shit like that. So
yeah. And it would be I feel like you'd have to make a lot of assumptions, and it'd be really weird for it to say that he was using a completely different brand of camera from the other officer, happened to turn it on, it happened to be set in a useless aspect ratio, and it also happened to be the only body cam that would have shown Johnny Hurley's corpse if it was filming regularly. It's like, or Arvada PD for the second time, because they already got busted doing it once, cropped footage. Because you know, the other point of the detail that I go into of the crop footage is they released the full video after the investigation was over of what the original one showed, but uncropped, and they also showed an extra like minute and 30 seconds afterwards, so you can see Johnny killing Troik and you can see Johnny running off screen. So it's like, okay, this what, like, you know, there was rumors of maybe this camera is motion activated. So then like after Troik left, there was no motion, so it turned off. We know that's not the case now. But the video once again conveniently ends right before Johnny gets shot. So it's like, okay, you released one part of the footage that didn't show Johnny. Then you released another part of the footage that didn't show Johnny. And then you released a body cam footage that doesn't show Johnny. And it's like, why? like again, it could be benign. I could be a psycho conspiracy theorist and everything happened the way the police said it. But then why are you going through so much effort to do this? Why are you uploading your body cam into an editing fucking thing and cropping it? And why are you uploading security camera footage into something and then cropping it? It's like, why?
One key point that I feel like we do need to mention that we haven't mentioned yet is I do remember in the article that you said, and I didn't see like an original source or anything. I mean, but that the way we know he was shot in the back is it went through his ass. Like
that's in the 1090 page report.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that he was shot in the rear pelvis or the buttocks is what it refers to. So he
probably hit that artery right there. I'm assuming.
Yeah, and
probably bled out.
Done immediately.
Yeah,
probably hit a bone, shattered it. We don't have the autopsy report. I don't think that's in there. I don't remember if it was.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I assume shot in the leg. The only way you're really going to get killed is if it hits the artery. But that is a big artery that runs through the femoral artery that runs through there. So it's not hard. A lot of people forget that like you got a killer there in your leg. That if you get hit just right, you're fucking donezo.
Which to me, the police described like the officer, which I guess we can get to his testimony next. I'll actually go from the beginning to the end so we don't jump around. But so like that's all we got there. And then finally they released the report, which includes the testimony from, I think it's Woodard. Let me double check this officer's name because I'm gonna have to say it a bunch of times. I don't want to fuck it up. Brownlow is the one who did the shooting. Is the shooter. Yeah, Officer Brownlow.
The cop shooter. Yeah.
So this is where shit gets really weird to me because, like I said, the narrative had been that the cops showed up to this. Like they called, they responded from even, I think there was a statement before. I didn't cover this in the article because it wasn't relevant, but the police had described like certain officers were running down certain streets, like a block or two away. So it's like, okay, a cop pulled up, parked his car and then ran. Like that's going to happen everywhere. But I cover it. In that alleyway is a police office. And in that office were 3 police officers. And they describe this situation where they're all sitting in this office and they hear Troik just shooting outside. And they're like, someone banging on the door. And this is like a dude just fucking unloading a Mossberg. And like, and again, like couldn't have been any more than like 20 feet from the office they're sitting in outside of one door. This dude is
got thunder today, Bob.
Right. This dude's just fucking, according to them at least, we gotta take their word for it because we don't have any other information. They don't show up on the body cam footage. They don't show up.
I believe it.
But yeah, there's these 3 cops sitting in this office while this dude is just mag dumping a fucking shotgun, then goes back to his car and then is just shooting fucking an AR-15 in the air.
And these are supposed to be like within like a 1/10 of a mile away, essentially, right?
No, this was, like I said, 25 to maybe 40 feet away. Literally
there's
outside.
No way. There's no way.
Like imagine where you're sitting now.
Yeah, dude. No.
Like, imagine where you're sitting now. Like a dude in your driveway is just fucking lighting rounds off, and you're like, oh, like,
dude. I hear people in my neighborhood because I live out in the country. There'll be people miles away shooting. Yeah, and it's indistinguishable. I'll be like, that's shooting, and like the few times that there are people shoot like within a quarter mile away, you're like, holy fuck, people are shooting. It's a little like for a second, even living in the country, like raises your hair, and then you're like, oh yeah, I live in the country.
Yeah, then imagine not recognizing gunfire as a police officer when someone is shooting outside the front door of the single floor,
it's not even believable.
Office. Yeah,
not even believable.
So his story is the 3 officers in there. 2 of them go out the back door, which I guess would have been the front door, which is opposite of where everything is going down, and they were going to circle around. He went to the back door, and it's just one of those ones where it's like outside door that has a little square glass window you can see through. And he describes himself posting up and looking outside the window. He sees Troik shooting a shotgun like down the alleyway. He sees Troik. He loses sight of him for a second. Then he sees Troik walking back. So he, according to him, he saw Troik twice, front and back of his body. And then he sees Troik come back with the AR-15. And even the cop describing this is saying that he's just pissing and shitting himself and he doesn't know what to do, which is like, okay, I won't go. I'll hide my police bias as much as possible. It's like, okay, you outnumber the dude 3-1. And like,
I mean, to be fair, I mean, like anytime like you're in a life or death situation, I guess I can totally see.
But then you have Johnny Hurley, random dude, balling across an entire open field with a fucking sidearm to just go. He's hunt and kill Troik. Like
he's built different, bro.
He's built different. Yeah, again, fucking just absolute Chad, dude. Because if you,
people are pussies. I don't know what to tell you. And this is, I've talked about this many times in other episodes I have. The idea that like, say with something like the cops or like, because I always like say with like the military, the idea that we're going to create these like people who are really good at these positions, whether it be combat, whatever. I mean, I was more of a mechanic. Like even as me as like a mechanic in the military, like the incentives they create do not create good mechanics. And the same thing goes for like, I'm sure the police, because you got to think incentives are everything. This is where theory nerd shit comes in. If you evaluate the incentives and see who thrives well in certain situations, and you look at cops, the incentives are not to create the fucking Chad, the dude who runs into a building and fucking saves people and shit. Like, that's not what it creates.
It's the Parkland shooter pissing and shitting himself in his car while a bunch of kids die. That's the American police. And like, to that point, you know, back to the story. So he admits that he saw Troik 3 separate times. And this is the part that gets really dumb to me. Because like I said, I described in the beginning of this of Troik is like a shorter, squat dude. He's wearing a black shirt. He
used me and Nick Ashley.
Nick and Ashley, exactly. He's wearing a black shirt. He has a black balaclava over his face, only showing his eyes. And then he has like a tan boonie hat. He's wearing black shorts with long, tall white socks and combat boots. So like you can envision that pretty well. Johnny is wearing like a green page boy hat, a bright fluorescent red shirt, blue jeans, and skater shoes. And the cop's excuse for this is he believed that when Troik went out of sight the second time, that maybe he took his hoodie off and changed his pants. And his shoes
transformed,
and again, literally just became a different person.
I like your example of me and Nick Ashley, because Nick Ashley, for those who don't know, is probably like 6'2", 6'3", like 190 pounds. We kind of have similar-ish, like fairly clean-shaven, like shortish hair, kind of. So I can see how you could like confuse that. We're generic white dude in the face, you know. But then like, he's like tall and like not necessarily skinny, but leaner,
average.
You know? And then you have me, who's 5'5", 220 pounds. So this would be a similar situation of confusing the two people. Very, very, very different builds.
Yeah. So like that's like confusing thing. One is like literally you guys are right next to the shooting and like you didn't react to it. And Johnny across the street can get to the shooting before you guys can when you literally it's out your front door of the building you're sitting in. That's weird. You see Troik multiple times and yet you still mix him up for Johnny. That's weird. And then what he describes is essentially he cracks this green door open. I show a picture of it in the article. He cracks this green door open and he lines up on Johnny. And he describes that Johnny is crouched down and he has his pistol in one hand and the rifle in the other. And you can see that he's manipulating the rifle. And that's all I can say. If I had to like, you know, armchair quarterback it, I'm pretty sure Johnny was probably trying to pop the bolt out and like make the gun inoperable, take the firing pin out, remove the bolt, something to the AR-15.
That's immediately where my head went. At least remove the ammo at the very least.
He's trying to disable the weapon essentially.
Yeah.
And like, so even then, like that goes to the story of if Johnny was sitting there and he had set his handgun down and you just saw him sitting like this from behind, the cop says like, oh, well, I didn't call out to him because I didn't want to, like, I felt like I couldn't win the gunfight. But if Johnny's sitting there holding an AR like this and has a handgun and he's sitting like
he's obviously, he admitted he's manipulating it. So he's not in a position of ready to go.
He even said even the cop thought maybe he's reloading it, maybe something like that. It's like, okay, so you have the drop, you have him from behind and you know he's not ready to fire. And you don't call out to him. You don't reposition. You don't do anything. And you just shoot him.
Yeah, which we said earlier. I can understand not, announcing because maybe you're worried, this becomes a gunfight. But the last thing I would do was open fire. Like you either announce yourself or maybe keep your mouth shut and get a better assessment of the situation.
Right, and like Johnny's not firing at that time. He's not moving at that time. He's inoperable with 2 guns in his hand.
Yes, so it's like it's not the movies. He's not going to have one AR in one hand and a pistol in the other.
Right, shooting the AR left-handed from his right shoulder with his no, it's not happening. It's just ridiculous. Yeah. And then he describes he shoots Johnny and then he just waits inside until the other officers come up and then they go and secure the scene. And that's like I said, it doesn't when you add all of it up to me, because to break it down really quickly, like all the weird things, you release cropped footage. Then you release crop footage again. Then you release body cam footage again. And then you have a really weird description. And then you leave Troik's body there and you take Johnny's body away. And it's like, if I was a parent and like, this is something my kids had done, I would be like, you're trying to hide something from me, aren't you? Something doesn't fucking line up here. You know, like
Daddy, I didn't shit on the floor. Why is there a turd in your closet?
like how did all the clothes get under your bed? I have no idea. Like, it just seems like there's something off here because, again, like I brought up, if it was a home run case, you would just show everything. And also for the fact that the police did something really weird, which is, if you go look at the story, I have never seen cops like massively dick suck somebody as hard as they did as Johnny. They literally like had an entire ceremony for him at the police department. He's referred to as a hero and every single thing. And by itself, it's like, okay, well, this guy stopped a mass shooting. I can understand that. But then you combine it with them hiding shit, and it's like hey, honey, why did you do the dishes today? What do you want? Kind of, like. Again, that's how it comes across to me. It feels like a gaslighting, abusive boyfriend.
I haven't gotten my dick sucked in 3 years, and you give me a beach today. What do you want?
What do you want? Right. Like, I've described it several times. It feels like the cops in this situation are like an abusive, gaslighting boyfriend. Like, they're just trying to do anything they can to be like, well, everything was fine. It was just an accident. It was just an accident, guy. He's a hero. It's just an accident. Don't look over there. Don't ask why the footage is cropped. Like, just go for it. And and most importantly, to the fact of this is that the only footage that was released to the public was the cropped security camera footage until after the internal affairs investigation was over and the cop had been cleared of any charges or wrongdoing and put back on the force. Yeah. So it's like, sure.
I mean, if I had to absolutely guess, like, this is in my head canon, what happened. Like, basically everything they said, and the cop fucked up, shot him, and then I think what happened was then they're probably freaking the fuck out. Like, they realize they fucked up. They probably actually do feel bad. They're probably like, how do we fix this? How do we fix this? I'm sure there's some element of like, we fucked up. This is why they're probably blowing him so much. They also know it's probably good for the narrative. Like, that way it doesn't blow up.
But we don't want to get in trouble for it.
Yeah, so like,
we don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah, so that's a lot of what it is, and they're so incestuous in there, and that they're not going to fuck themselves over. And I'm sure there's some element of like, well, Bobby admitted he fucked up to us, so like,
right?
Why make the boy go through more?
Right,
like some dumb shit like that. Like, and I'm sure
kill the local hero, Bobby.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine, I don't know what this dude's name is. I'm calling Bobby just because it's redneck, but
Brownlow. I mean, with a name like that, probably
Bobby Brownlow. That makes sense to me. But I would think he just kind of sounds just like a generic putz. Probably got put in a shitty situation he had no business being in, even though he literally
described the shotgun blast directly outside the building as the first couple of ones he heard. He thought someone was banging on the door.
Which, I mean, it's hard to believe he's telling the truth there, but like
really?
Like, I can understand the first shot being like, what the fuck is that? There's some like kids with
like car backfired,
yeah.
like whatever. But like a dude literally dumping a fucking shotgun into a cop. And you're like, oh, someone's banging on the door. Like, what the fuck? I don't get it. It's absurd to me. And that's what I said,
really like it's just like a prime example of like what government creates. Because people always have this thing like, is government evil? Is it incompetent? It's like, no, it's both. You incompetent people being led by evil, smart people,
and often not doing incompetent things, and then evil people covering it up.
Yeah. So, like, this guy, just to me, sounds super incompetent. If anything, he might be one of those guys who drank the blue Kool-Aid, buys everything, probably feels awful about it. But it's just, like, the fact that then his department covers it all up for him. And he's like, oh, thanks, guys.
That just, I don't go into it too deeply in the article because it was already getting kind of wordy. But, like, Johnny is a block and a half away, just a random schmuck sitting at a gun store. And he got there faster and neutralize the threat faster than the cops that were literally in the building. So like, that's like if there was an active shooting in like the middle of a Walmart and like somebody all the way in the parking lot got there before like a cashier did. Like, it's like, how? It doesn't line up. And I try not to be too conspiratorial about it, but there's just so many details where it's like, I don't know about that.
The people want to say, what are we gonna do in anarchy world with no police? It's like, well, I don't know. We'd have the Rittenhouses and the fucking Hurleys of the world handling it just fucking fine.
Right? Yeah. Ahmaud Arbery would have just lit up those two fucking rednecks and just continued on with his day. You know, like he would be alive and there'd be 2 idiots dead instead of Ahmaud.
Yeah.
100 examples. You know,
they're not sending their best.
And of course, the Ahmaud Arbery thing, the guy was an ex-cop. So like, all of these involve the cops somehow. And then I also because the next article I'm going to be doing is going to be about the Fonta Bately. I don't know, I'm horrible with names. The Fonta case, but then also the Casey Goodson case, which I'm trying to build a narrative here to where like it destroys the arguments as they go. Because like Johnny Hurley, it's like, well, we can't trust cops in an active shooting situation. Well, Johnny Hurley, you know, things were chaotic and somebody else was killing cops, so that makes sense. Then you step down to Casey Goodson, to where the Casey Goodson case was something that happened in Columbus, Ohio. The cops got reports that a dude was driving around waving a pistol outside of his car in a neighborhood. So a bunch of cops drive to this neighborhood to start searching for this. Casey Goodson is walking up to his front porch with a bag of Subway sandwiches, and he's open carrying a pistol, registered, legal, no criminal record. He literally puts the keys into his front door, and the cops fly up to him, jump out of the car, tell him to drop the gun, and as he turns around, they shoot and kill him. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, so Johnny Hurley was stopping an active shooter. The cops just heard about a gun in the area and just killed a random dude coming home with Subway sandwiches. And then you go to
solved.
Right, yeah. Excellent fucking police work.
Puts the fucking glasses on and walks away.
And then you go to the Bately situation, where the Bately situation was that a block away, there a gunfight broke out between these 2 black kids that were fighting with each other. The cops run out of this football field, just like a regular small town kind of shitty chain link fence football field with a single set of bleachers. Nothing.
They run out of civilian clothes and their cop clothes run under.
Right. they run out, and a vehicle turns onto, well, a vehicle is driving towards them, and then a vehicle turns onto their road. They just start dumping rounds into the fucking car, thinking that they're being shot at. They were never being shot at. They light up one car and injure 2 people, and then the other car, they kill a fucking 7-year-old girl and wound, like I said, like a 13-year-old and a 17-year-old. They had nothing to do with this at all. They were literally just like, what the fuck? So that goes the case of like, okay, you know, Johnny Hurley was stopping an active shooter, but Casey Goodson just had a gun and didn't do anything wrong. Well, Casey Goodson had a gun. Well, the fucking 7-year-old was literally just by a shooting. And the moment the cops heard guns go off, they lost their shit and just started shooting people. And it's like,
I just imagine after the aftermath of each one of these, a bald eagle flies overhead and the Team America theme song plays, you know?
For real! Fucking donuts on us in the morning, boys. Like, what the fuck? And the Bately thing is so fucked up because they claim that they died in a drive-by, covering up the fact that the cops shoot them, and now they're charging the 2 17-year-old boys who got into a gunfight like a block away with first-degree murder, because the argument is because they got into a gunfight, it's their fault that the cops killed a 7-year-old girl.
The logic follows.
Yeah.
If you see them as a force of nature with which cannot be controlled, which is kind of what they are in a sense, then yeah, they bear no responsibility.
Right? Like
you blame the hurricane?
Yeah, you were skipping rocks at the dam and it blew open and killed 100 people. This is your fault. I forget the name of it, but there's another one where like they're charging a 35-year-old woman with manslaughter because she was like walking around with a machete to her neck or something, and the cops showed up. And they tased her and they had her on the ground and they had her in handcuffs and everything. And then another cop pulls up and tries to run across the street to help them arrest this woman. And a third cop hits that cop with his car and kills him. And then they're charging that woman with manslaughter. She's on her belly being tased with handcuffs on, and she's getting charged for murder because another cop hit another cop with a car.
Yeah, it's like all the stories you always hear about someone who's like about to kill themselves and someone calls the cops and the cops show up and kill someone or maim someone and then they somehow like charge the person who tried to kill themselves something, be like, well, this is kind of in a sense your fault, and you're like, right, I mean, I guess. Sort of, not really.
The one Sal Diagoras put out a couple, I think it was like a week or 2 ago, where it's like HOA called the police over a guy not mowing his lawn, and it turned into like a 32 SWAT officer shootout with the house burning down. Like I said, an eagle flies over it. Like, what the fuck?
I don't know the story, but the first thought that came to my head when I heard that is base.
Right. Like the dude wouldn't mow his lawn, so he got
lawn.
Yeah, he got wacoed for not mowing his lawn. He got into a shootout and then burned his house down because he wouldn't mow his lawn.
I'm gonna stand on principle here, boys.
My cold dead blades. Go fuck yourself. Like it's obviously horrible and tragic. Somebody died, but you hit a level of absurd where it's like, what? Like, what do you even say?
I mean, really, even Waco, if you look at it on its face, it's fucking ridiculous. Like, there's these people who want to live out in the country. They just want to fucking, like, have their weird little, like, kind of borderline Christian cult. Let's go fuck with them. Like, why?
Let's show up, shoot their dogs, and then burn them all alive.
I know there's, like, weird reports of, like, child molestation and stuff, but apparently a lot of that's, like, really iffy. Like, I've gone down the trail with it, but even then it's like, okay, well then you go through the normal channels and deal with it. Like, it isn't like we're gonna go kill these motherfuckers.
Right, just holding a 5-year-old at gunpoint is like, you've been raped, and like, well, why are you bang? Like,
you could thank us later.
Right, America.
You may be dead, but at least you're not getting fucking diddled.
Yeah, that's the whole Hurley thing. That's the case. I'm gonna be doing a lot of these of just these instances where, like, in an active shooter situation, the cops just lose their fucking minds. They don't know what to do. They hear a gun and they just go fucking chimp mode and they have no idea what's going on. And God forbid if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. And there's no, like the 2A argument doesn't apply to that. Because like whether America is the most heavily armed country in the world or whether guns are totally banned, if the cops have guns, like, it doesn't matter. You could just be Jose, like, wandering down the street and a fucking gunfight could break out in a building and the cops could just show up and shoot you because they're not thinking. They're just, panicked and freaking out. And it's ridiculous to me. And like you said, it'd be one thing if it's just like, okay, this is an idiot who's not prepared for the situation. It was an accident or whatever. But they don't lie about it, because then you lie about it. It's like, and I almost feel like, when the police department puts out statements to the media, if they are explicit lies, that should be criminal, period. Like them saying that Johnny was standing over Troik's body when that never happened, that police department should face consequences for that. When they claim that Fanta was killed in a drive-by shooting when 3 of the cops there know that they lit the fucking minivan up that she was in, and then they go to the media and she's like, yeah, she died in a drive-by. That whole department better get fucking torn the fuck apart. We're looking into all of your like, that's so suspicious, But
here's the problem. Like, I'm sure all of that stuff is actually probably by letter of the law illegal. But then again, so is so many other things that don't get, like, I'm doing a live reading of Conkin with someone Caleb Brown right now of Niagara's Primer, and he goes into like setting your prices when it comes to like, and how like. He kind of points out that, like, hey, there's this one law that if you set your prices too high in comparison to your competitors, it's illegal because of, you're just, I don't remember what the excuse is.
Price gouging.
If you set it equal with them, then you're apparently in a cartel with your fucking competitors, and they can claim that you're doing this, you're price manipulating, and you can be illegal. Or if you set them too low, you can be it's not fair competition, and that's illegal. And like he points to specific laws, which is entirely illegal. But it's like no matter what you do, it's illegal. And it's like this is the way that this is the dirty way that the criminal justice is set up. Doesn't even matter if something is illegal. What matters is if there's any sort of political will. Yeah. Pretty much anything anyone does, like people commit so many felonies in the course of the day and don't even realize it. And it's like, but what the issue is like, are they going to go after it? Does the establishment have a reason to go after you? Do they have a reason not to go after you? And that's the point with like the cops. It's like, when it comes to shit like this, it's like, yeah, I'm sure every one of those little things is illegal, but it's like, they don't have the political will to push every one of these things because they don't want to go after the cops. And then it's like, okay, yeah, you might have some individual people like me and you, but it's like compared to the political will, like, yeah, you might be able to like drag them along and be like, all right, well, fuck these guys. They did this, but it's like, you're going to be like almost fighting against incentives. Because you have this incentive, this gigantic organization pushing one way, and you're going to be pushing to the other one. You might get little wins here and there, but it's like overall, you're going to fight so much to get so little. And this is kind of like the whole point of like, this is all shit. So the idea that we're going to have like political reform, this is where like anarchy comes to play. And I know we're not going to get anarchy, But it's like you have to realize at the very end that like for the most part they get what they want until they're gone, and like you might be able to get little wins here and there. And you can call this black pilling. I don't give a shit. This is just really just like the fact of the situation. It's like there's no political will to push back on these people. So just at the very least understand the dynamic and what's going on here and react accordingly. You know, like So just don't ever trust a fucking cop because if they do anything wrong, they won't pay for it. And if you do something wrong or do something right that goes against their incentives, you're fucked. So,
and they will testify against you happily in court, which is the funny thing about the Rittenhouse thing of like all the I'm wondering if Kyle's going to come out of this trial not a bootlicker, watching all of the cops that were giving him high fives and saying we're so happy you're here and everything that night fucking testify against him. I wonder if that'll change his worldview. We'll see.
Oh my god! I hope we get based Rittenhouse after this. That'd be dope.
Just turns into this fucking militant anarchist Rittenhouse. He's just like, fuck the government. The protesters were right. Like, just fucking radicalize Rittenhouse. Like, that'd be fucking hilarious.
He's like, yes, I like the riots, but don't fuck with those private businesses. Like he just shows up as like a fucking Batman figure at every riot. Right, that's don't touch that person's house.
That's essentially what
police station's over there.
That's essentially what my homie Luke was doing there the whole time. He was on footage the night before, literally talking to protesters, being like, "Yeah, dude, go fuck up the courthouse. Hell yeah, I'm all about it. Just leave this building alone." They're like, "Okay, bro," and then just move up. Like,
I'm just imagining John Wick, but with Rittenhouse, and then like someone fucks with some like person's apartment, drops like 3 people, and be like, "Police station's that way."
Right. You're robbing the wrong building. For real, dude. Yep. We'll see. We'll see what comes out of all of this. It's gonna be a fucking.
Let's talk legal fallout. I feel like you briefly mentioned it, but I want to get more of a clear answer. What was any sort of legal fallout for the cops? Has there been any sort of like, I know, so nothing's been pushed, nothing. It's just
cop hasn't lost his.
Someone else already put it in the chat. We investigated ourselves and found we did nothing wrong.
Yeah, literally, no use of force, like not even like use of force training. They didn't disarm the cop. They didn't put him on desk job. Like literally just, yeah, you're fine. It's cool. Nothing to say here. Nothing to report on. Move on. And that's like the part that pisses me off so much is the fact that when like the cases that we win on these things, and this is why I fuck with BLM, no matter how much rightoids get fucking mad about it, it's why I fuck with them, is the cases where the cops are definitively wrong, 9 times out of 10, the only way we win on that and that cop gets fucked over is because a whole bunch of people are really mad and they show up and they raise hell and they fucking call people and they threaten not to vote for fucking people. They do all this shit. That is the only way these things happen. And I feel like the Arvada Police Department knew that and they tried to get ahead of it. And they tried to like resort to it. Because this is another very important detail I should have included in the article, but I didn't, is that we announced a protest for Johnny Hurley, and we're going to go in front of the Arvada PD and demand that they release the footage. It ended up only like 3 people fucking showed up because libertarians are useless. It's unfortunate, but true. And the left wingers had been poisoned to think that Johnny Hurley was some thin blue line guy that stopped somebody who just wanted to kill cops. That's not true. That was literally a lie pushed by the fucking like Democratic counts and shit. Johnny very explicitly was a police brutality activist. He was not a cop simp, but only 3 people showed up. But Arvada PD had surrounded the entire police department with fences and had SWAT on demand. So like, that's how scared they were of somebody coming and protesting. And that's another little like shading to this of like, oh, that you kind of just told on yourself right there. You know,
they get sketch. Like I followed probably one of the biggest ones I followed pretty closely, but I probably couldn't really spout off any like substance information right now, but I'd have to like dig deep into it. But the Duncan Lemp situation, the same thing. They had so many multiple protests and they got freaked out multiple times. There was a whole lot of weird stuff. They would always
they pulled over that one dude who was driving to the protest and threw a flashbang in his fucking car and arrested him and took his rifle away for nothing. He literally did nothing. They're just like, oh, you're going to the Duncan Lemp. They threatened his parents. It's like, okay, you're telling on yourself. Yeah. Like, don't pay attention to when the cops expose how they really feel. Because if you look at like Flint's a great example. Flint, there was going to be like a giant George Floyd protest or something like that. And the police department came out in like plain clothes and were like, yeah, we don't have a problem. Y'all can protest. We'll be here. as long as there's no problems, we're good. And then they left. And then other protests, like the fucking protesters get there and there's a goddamn MRAP and they got concrete blocks out and fucking barbed wire fence. And it's like, oh, oh, I see what's going on here.
Like, we know we fucked up and there's a good chance they make it a little rowdy.
Yeah, people are mad. And it's like, why are people mad? Oh yeah, people are mad because you fucked up. Yeah. But yeah, that's the Hurley thing. That's kind of hints for other stories I'm gonna be working on. I guess I'm a fucking writer now. So I'm gonna be doing another story about how like Boston police just got busted flying a surveillance plane over the city 24/7, filming everybody. And it was kept so under wrap that the mayor didn't know about it. And like that combined with obviously the Rittenhouse thing of the FBI admitting they had drones in the air over the Kenosha protest that they lost the footage for. And
the fucked up thing is I hear that I just kind of shrug in my head like,
right. Yeah. But it's important to tell. It's important because normies don't get it. Normies still think it's like oh, you think your toaster's spying on you, and it's like probably
could be. I don't fucking know. Like people always like I talk to normies, they'll like joke and be like, "Do you think they're like lizard people that are like controlling the government and this and that?" I'm like, I mean, like no, but I'm not like past believing it. I don't know.
Like, would you be surprised?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, right. I mean, this is not where my head jumps to, but it's a distinct possibility.
Right, dude. Hey, they're the one that put a Velociraptor on the stage of the UN, voiced by Jack Black. Okay, that was on them.
That shit was weird. That did like send me. We're leaning into this vibes. Like we're trying to kind of get you. Like, what do you guys think about lizard people? Think no. Okay, we'll pull back.
What the fuck? Yeah,
you're not ready for that one. Okay, we get it.
But I guess like the final thing I want to touch on is I'm just the Hurley thing was like my first major black pill of just like how our very broad sphere. I'll just find our sphere is like the like mega ANCAP types all the way to like the Luke Rakowski, like more Tim Pool sort of centrist people, I guess you could call them, of the fact that like nobody showed up to that protest at all. And like Luke from We Are Change, he talked about it a couple times, but he didn't like boost anything. Like LP Colorado talked about it a couple times, but didn't show up. Like Adam Kokesh is the only person who seemed to really give a fuck about it. And it's like, okay, this was literally a registered libertarian, like ANCAP dude who stopped a mass shooting and was killed by the cops. You'd think if there would be a hill to die on, it would be like your dude, our people, you know, unambiguously getting killed by the cops admitting they killed him. And nobody showed up. Nobody raised hell about it. Nobody was like shaking the trees. It's like, come on, guys.
To be fair, I mean, I don't know how to put this, but the protest is like one of those things in my head that I go back and forth on a lot of times. Like a lot of my like theory in my head, I'm fairly resolute on. I'm never resolute entirely on anything, but like protest is always that one that like in my head I go back and forth on. Like, is there any real like? What does this do? Like, and I'm not even saying it's wrong or right, but it is like sometimes in my head, I'm like, how much does this accomplish? And how many times do they use the protests as narratives against you in the future? And I'm not even saying one way or the other. I have an internal debate going all the time, the usefulness of it. Sometimes there's almost like more in my head, maybe to the argument of being the gray man and like inspiring others to be the gray man. Which is a lot of like kind of what agorism is, but at the same time, like I don't know. I mean, maybe there is usefulness to it. I'm very up in the air. Like I'm not gonna lie, when I saw like Angela McArdle's fucking like guillotine thing at that one protest, I got kind of like caught on and got one. In my head, I was like, all right, that's a little cringe, dog. Like
he told me she was building a guillotine. Okay, I had higher expectations.
Like that had strong LARP energy, and I'm like, I don't know. That might actually do more damage than good. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, no, it's just like that picture that was released of some random John Brown Gun Club chapter, and the guy was walking around with the AR without a mag in it. It's like
cool.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something I'm always fleshing out in my head, and I still have not come to a point where I've come to a resolute decision on either. At the very least, I want people to know about this shit. That's what I care about the most.
That's the main thing to me is like the internet is so unreliable because I feel like we're all kind of stuck in 2014 still, to where like you had, you know, Tim Pool blowing up, you had Steven Crowder blowing up, you had like the Young Turks and like all these indie media and Jimmy Dore, whatever, of like, well, we just need these platforms and then we can wake people up. And that was true then. But now shit is so suppressed and fucking algorithmic, whatever. And if you do actually like hit something, you just get banned or fucking buried in the search results or your likes taken away. Like they have such control over the internet to where when I went to the Alexander Rios event, which is something we put on in a small town in Ohio, couldn't be a mile further fucking across from each other, you know? And we went down there for a very similar story to Anthony Hulan of this guy who was essentially beaten to death in jail by the cops. And there was only like 30 of us out there, and this was a really small town. So you think people would have heard of it, but we talked to probably at least like 20, 30 people in this small town. They're like, why are you guys out here? What's going on? And we're like, oh, you didn't know somebody was like beaten to death in this jail? And they're like, no. And it's like, you can't censor that. You can't take my fucking like bar and turn it down. You can't ban me. Like I'm here in person. I'm talking to this person as a human being. This person probably actually cares what I'm saying because they took the time to stop their day and ask me what the fuck is going on. And like, that's really important. And then obviously also just like the networking, because it doesn't even have to be protests. It's just meeting in person. Like I'll use a relevant example for you of like all of y'all at Tower Gang have been friends for like a very long time, but then y'all met each other in person. And can you tell me that like 100 streams were anything like that one time y'all were in the same place? Like
no, it was kind of beautiful. It was
like,
to
where
the same time it's like people make this like a Ted Kaczynski type argument with technology, but at the same time I see the other side where it's like you brought up with like Tower Gang, like yes, we met in person and it was better and different, but it was also like that was caused by the internet. So it's like,
I mean, yes, there are opinion.
Yeah. This is why I think like technology. I'm not the Ted Kaczynski type to think technology is slowly dooming us. I think it is, but it also isn't. I think technology creates this further bifurcation between like those types and our types. Is what I think over time.
Humans and fucking NPCs.
Yeah, human animals, as Dune would put it.
Yeah, and that's like my other example I'd use is my End the Damn Wars protest, to where like Scott Horton and like my friend Andrew and Olivia Rondo and like all of these people interact on Twitter. They all have access to each other or whatever, but none of them considered working together until after they met in person. It's just something different. If they wouldn't have all showed up to that protest, then like Max Blumenthal and Scott Horton wouldn't be like collaborating even more. Olivia Rondo wouldn't be like talking to like Marie Fonseca, who's a leftist and everything, about police brutality. Like none of those connections would have happened. And you think, well, like, oh, well, there's the internet. You can just DM them on Twitter. We just don't, for some reason. There's just, I couldn't, I'm not an armchair psychologist. I don't know why we don't just build these connections when it's available always. But I think that's so important. I think that's what people, the non-touch grassers really lose in this is how showing up to like a protest might plant the seed for something crazy way down the line that you would have never gotten off the internet and that would have never happened before. And you know,
yeah, no, there's definitely that like real world aspect of it, which is like, to bring it into like, me and you are the most radical of radical individualists. We are egoists. And you know, like, so in a sense, even our philosophy, you know, everyone, it's funny too when people go on about like, you know, being principled ANCAP or principled this. And I'm like, well, I mean, I'm kind of egoist first and foremost. So if my ANCAP principles ever, you know, are at odds with what benefits myself, it's kind of like, well, I mean, like,
fuck it.
I mean, my principle is that which benefits me. And like, I know that sounds awful to say, but if you really apply it from an egoist lens and put it out from just the dumb, like, well, I only think of me. It's like, well, what does that really mean in practice? Like, yeah, it's not that crazy. And so I know a lot of people get caught up in the principles of like the NAP or this or that. And it's like, today, like, my principles are me. But the whole point I'm getting at too is like this hyper individualism, things build out from yourself. So like really even just being more knowledgeable or like spreading these ideas to other people, even just in a day to day, like your workspace, whatever. I feel like these things rub off. Like they have like,
I've radicalized the fuck out of everyone I've met.
Oh yeah,
everyone in my real life are like fucking off the deep. I mean, fuck, my mom's on Twitter. You can see the shit she posts all the time. Like she's like, so it's
and it's like it's too cool too, because especially once you learn different sides of theory and this and that, you can appeal to different sides. Like I had a buddy in the military. He was like a super redneck, from the South, conservative. But he was like, the generic, like South will rise again type guy. And I would always play on that stigma. I'd be like, well, here's where the Confederates were right. They should have been allowed to fucking break off from the North. That was their prerogative. That's allowed in the Constitution. They should secede. I think
your foot in the door.
Secede. Yeah, like I think every state should be able to secede. I think every county should be able to secede. Every person, every individual, and like you just work those angles of like. What like you just find different ways to work with different people. Listen, and like you're speaking their language.
Yeah, there's a lefty term for that, which is so good, which is code switching, which like I've fucking mastered because I run in like 300 different circles. I swear to God. But yeah, like tooling your argument to who you're talking to, so fucking important. And like again, for the in-person thing, like I actually I don't know if you're in the crowd or not, but like. Every single person that I've talked to has been like, yeah, I've been a fan of Scott for like ever. But then like I sat down and talked to him for a while and it was completely different. And you had that whole thing at the Tom Woods thing where people at like 4 a.m. were sitting on a sidewalk, just like listening to fucking Scott like sermon.
Wait, were you there?
No.
Oh, I was like, I didn't see you, but no, I wasn't there.
If I was there, y'all would have seen it, bro.
I was at other events with Scott. I went to the Florida LP convention, which I know everyone gives me shit because I'm an agorist. I was there to meet the homies. Like, I'm not like it's not like
people give me shit for going to Yale, and I'm like, I talk mad shit about Yale all the time.
Yeah,
I'm like, dude,
people act like I'm a demon that's gonna like burst flames in a church. Like, but with me being an agorist and like a political event, like they're still my people. I'm not gonna vote for you. I don't know what to tell you.
Right? Yeah, bro. Like I just went to hang out with like Clint and Olivia and shit, and they paid for 4 nights at a fucking 4-star hotel. Of course I'm going. Yeah. What the fuck do you mean? I don't care. They're a bunch of boomer Republicans, and I spent like half the time I'm there getting into debates about Israel. Like I don't give a fuck.
But yeah, I ran into fucking Scott at that, and Scott is an amazing person to meet in person. He is like
the most lethally chill human being on the planet, bro.
He's just like the peak stoner, and you're like, dude, you're like the foremost foreign policy expert of like basically the United States. He's like, yeah, dude, you want to fucking hit this?
I know Olivia was like, I'm so nervous to talk to him. And me having met Scott like twice now, I'm like, oh, just wait. Because literally, like, you just walk up and he's like, yo, what's up? When I
had Dave on my episode, when I had Dave on my channel, we were breaking down Anatomy Estate. That was like the first thing we were talking about. It's like our meeting at Anatomy Estate. It's funny because even Dave, because he was at one point kind of where I was at, and he got to meet Scott. And this was when he was like a small guy, and he was going on like, like I guess he had given away. This is back in the old days of weed, and he had given his weed to like I think it was Luis Gomez. He had given it to them because they're like, oh, I won't need this. I'm gonna go hang out with this foreign policy expert. And then he got there, he was like, fuck, I wish I brought the weed.
First time I ever met Scott, it was like, where's the weed at? He's a great guy, fucking spectacular, and he's brilliant. But anyway, we're like way to fuck off topic.
Oh, I don't care. I mean, we've covered all the Hurley stuff. We're just shooting the shit at this point. This is the fun part. But yeah, no, Scott is an amazing guy. And the kind of point we're getting at is how networking works. Yeah,
and to Scott's point, Scott was the white pill to my libertarian back pill, because when I'm like, hey Scott, we want to do an anti-war protest in DC, he's like, I'll show up, and I'm like, we don't even know who's gonna be there. I don't care, I'll show up. Like, it might not be that big, I'll show up. It's like, all right, fuck yeah, Scott. Like, let's go. That's that energy you fucking need, because like I bring this up before too, of like motivating people to go outside. And I use this example all the time, and I swear to God, I feel so bad about it. Dave, I'm not picking on you. It's just the best example I ever thought of. So please don't take it personally. It's just such a good example. But
I'm just kidding. Actually say that, but like when I had him on my show, he like referenced multiple episodes. I'm like,
yeah, no,
Dave fucking watching my show. Like I have like 100 viewers, and you're one of them. Like what's going on?
Like I brought up the example of like what people need to start doing if they personally can't show up to like events. I brought up the example of like Dave being like, hey, I'm doing a comedy special in Buffalo this weekend. There's an anti-mandate protest going on like a week before. If you if you provide proof that you were there, I'll give you like a free drink, or I'll give you like 10% off the ticket to come see me or something. People would go just for that, So like it's getting those numbers. And I haven't had a chance to suck your dick about this yet, so you're gonna get it. I'm so happy because you were the first motherfucker in the libertarian sphere who had the wild idea of, hey, maybe we should like get one of these people organizing these giant mandate protests on our podcast. And I've been screaming at people to do this forever. And I will be honest, the last person I expected to be the fucking person leading the charge on that was Jose. But here we go. You beat everybody else for like actually reaching out to these people that are facing arrest and like gathering in mass in these super blue giant fucking areas to protest mandates. And it's
I don't feel like I've done that much, but not, I mean, like, but I don't know. I'm just kind of, I like,
you had one person on and you are at the head of the pack. You've beaten everybody else. Like,
I know I always try to like just go. I know a lot of people go for like guests or whatever, but I usually have like I want to have conversations, and I'll find a conversation and like I'll go with it. And if it's something I find that's important, like some of my least viewed episodes have been my favorite. Like my favorite one of all time, I want to say it's episode 58, and it was this guy who had on who was an infantry dude. And he, well, not infantry. He actually had some other job, but when he deployed, he got put as an aerial gunner, and he ended up doing some horrendous shit that was like in this weird moral quandary area.
Like an AC-130 gunner?
Yeah, something like that. And it was like,
yeah, dude, that's some fucking horror story.
We kind of talked about that, and it was cool contrasting his experience versus mine. And like he did the one enlistment and experienced horrible shit. I had the cushy generic beer, like, military or like, chair force. It wasn't really chair force, it was a mechanic, but job for 11 years. It's like contrasting those and how he put it in. It was really good. I was worried I was going to cry in the episode. I never teared up, but like he did. It was because when he told me about the situation before we even did the episode, I'm like, dude, I might fucking tear up a little bit because it was pretty fucked up. And like, this is a dude that like got really fucked up from shit he did in the military. That was like, in some sense, you could almost make a moral argument for being, in a sense, okay, because he was put in that situation. But the fact he should have never been in that situation in the first place, type thing. So, like, yeah, it was fucked up shit. And yeah, I like stuff like that interests me. I'm like, yeah, I know it's always great. Like maybe I can get this guest, that guest, but I'm more like always looking like, what is my itch? What's scratching? So if you ever have any more of these, so like any good stories, yeah, I'm always down because I mean, this is the kind of stuff I dig, shit like this.
I want because it's funny you talk about like your least viewed episodes being your most favorite. My favorite episode I ever did, which is also my least viewed episode, is the David McBride episode. And this is a guy, like, I'm telling everybody to reach out to. They need to talk to him because the story's crazy. He's fucking Australian Special Forces, and he's blowing the whistle on the Australian military committing war crimes. He's facing life in prison, and he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna go to jail. I'm gonna fight this. Fuck it. Like, he's essentially like a Julian Assange type. And he's just going on all these podcasts talking about like, yeah, dude, I was like special forces, and they were like shooting fucking women and children and shit. And I tried to report it and they couldn't. So then I went to the press and then they arrested me and I had to flee the country, and like crazy fucking story. And I go and look, and like he has like 10K Twitter followers or something. And I'm like, and then I'm like, how do more people know my name? And I'm fucking a goddamn mouth breathing idiot from Michigan who hasn't accomplished shit. And this dude's like a Bond character, like,
yeah, definitely send me that information. That fucking lights me up. If you have his deets or just even his handle, I'm gonna hit that dude if he's not already on the flank.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I said, he's facing like the rest of his life in prison for blowing the whistle on this, and he's literally like, I'm gonna fight it. I don't give a fuck. Come and get me. Just like super Australian, thick ass fucking accent, great sense of
living with the Aborigines at this point or some shit.
Oh yeah, he's trapped in his house on house arrest. He's literally not allowed to leave. Like,
oh shit, dude.
Yeah,
man,
he's
that's
fucking
wild.
legend.
Well, yeah, man, we've been going on for a while here. This has been fun. We'll definitely do more when you have more of these for us. I'm always love an excuse to have you on the show. I would like to have you on for the Dune one when we cover that.
I'll be down for some mega fucking nerd talk.
Yeah, nerd out for like an hour and a half with a few other people who are big nerds on it. And then like if you get
the idea of Ice and Fire on, dude, I'm fucking there. I'm already there, but I will fucking call out of work, bro.
Dude, I want him, especially because I don't know where he's coming from. So like to me that like interests me more. Like feel like that'd be more fun. Yeah, I don't know. He never missed me back, and I there's no way he didn't see. I'm pretty good at fucking getting it going on the fucking Twitter. I don't have a huge account, but I know how to manipulate things. There's no way he didn't see that. So
you just need to get like Eric July to like message him or something, and it'll be
right. I mean, I tried looking around and seeing if there's other alternative ways, because sometimes people just don't use certain platforms. Like if anyone ever tries to get a hold of me on Facebook, you're probably gonna have a hard time because like
if you text me or try to get me through Telegram or anything on my phone, you're fucked. Because I don't. people make fun of me when I post screenshots on my phone. I have like 5,000 unread notifications. It's like, yeah, dude, I get.
Yeah, pretty much the only way you're gonna hold me is Twitter Messenger. DM me, it's open. So if anyone out there wants to DM me, I mean, I saw it. I just may have ignored you. Just know I saw it. But yeah, let's go ahead and drop plugs though. We've been going long enough. This is fun. Like I said, I would like to have you come on. I do want to do two things of Dune. I'm going to eventually read the entire series and we'll cover it then. But I definitely want to cover it now that like some of the earlier stuff is on my head. Yeah. But yeah, go ahead and drop your plugs. Definitely let them know. I know you have your Substack.
Yeah, so my shit I just announced. So yeah,
all this stuff will be in the video description whenever I drop it as a numbered episode. I don't have it right now on the live stream, but if you want to go ahead and drop it now so people can listen and look at it.
Yeah, so it's Magnus Panvidya on Substack. My kind of whole shtick in activism is covering really important stories that nobody gives a fuck about. That isn't like the hot button issue. So I will be covering a lot of things about surveillance, pre-crime, because there's a lot of another story that I'm going to be going into really heavily that nobody's talking about is I think it was like a 20-year-old Lake Superior State University student who was being charged with terrorism for taking a picture of his AR-15 and posting it to his Snapchat story. Terrorism, like literally fucking life in prison terrorism charges for taking a picture of his gun. So a lot of stuff like that I talk about. I'm going to be doing articles on there. I'm also on YouTube, same name, right fucking here. You can search it. My podcast is on like a brief hiatus because my internet goes out all the time and it's super unreliable. It's remained stable this whole time. I'm really happy about it, but yeah, I'm actively being fucked with by the FBI constantly. It's great. Everyone's on a list for watching this just because I'm here. Enjoy that. You're probably already on a list just because of Jose, but but yeah, that's all my things.
Yeah. Well, fuck, what was I gonna say? Well, I'm even more of an egoist than you because I just cover shit that I want to cover, whether it's important or people care. So...
No, you don't understand, Jose. I don't have a personality outside of hating the government. It's real. Yeah. I'm a nerd and I hate the government.
Exactly. With that, I'm on the No Way Jose YouTube channel. You can find me on all the major audio podcatchers. I'm on Odyssey as well. I'm at Galison Jose. If you want to follow me, go to patreon.com/NoWayJose2020 if you want to support me. The lowest tier is $2. That gets you access to live streams, all that stuff. It'd be helpful. Support the Grift Dog. Fucking, I'd like to never work again. That'd be great. Just if like 3,000 of you could just like do that real quick, that'd be dope.
I need my rich sugar daddy that thinks I'm awesome. Like, come on.
Yeah, I'm not above sucking dick. Everyone has their price. Yep. Mine's just pretty high. I mean, not like as high as you think it is, but it's pretty high. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Yeah, with that note, it's been great having you on. I always love an excuse to have you on. With that, I'm out. If you want to stick around, we should shit in the after too. So
yeah, I'm gonna run and do some shit. I gotta write another article. So see ya.